paint a picture for you. Imagine that you're with me in your own backyard. If you look around, the trees are starting to turn orange and red. There's a cool, crisp feeling in the air, and off in the distance, you hear this faint honking sound. It gets gradually closer as your eyes scan the sky, until finally on the horizon you see it, that familiar V-shaped formation of geese flying south for the winter. At last, migration season is here. I have been fascinated by birds since I was a little boy. In few creatures do you find the intricacy and detail of their amazing tiny feathers and their swift wings. I did a lot of research in my childhood in my own backyard by feeding the birds, studying them online and in books, and even visiting the aviary. My exploration may have involved inviting some of them into my house at one point. I think the birds enjoyed that experience about as much as my parents did. Now, did you know that these tiny little birds have very likely seen more of the world than you have? Look out the window and find one of our little feathered friends. Chances are his vacation last year was to a more exotic location than yours was. You see, unlike our winter cruises and beach visits, which are simply for relaxation and enjoying a break from the snow or from our homework, birds migrate as a matter of survival. I'm going to show you the fascinating journey that birds take every year, the reasons they embark on such an epic road trip, and how we as humans play a part in the pattern that has been going on for centuries. Birds may migrate due to a changing food supply. Changing temperatures can necessitate a warmer climate, and oftentimes they need a safe and familiar nesting ground. Many of these factors have been heavily influenced by the increasingly urban civilization that we as humans call home. So, according to Cornell's lab website, All About Birds, migration happens in large part when birds are running out of the resources that they need. When the weather turns cold and insects and plants begin to die, birds will often head south to places that are warmer and therefore have a richer supply of food. In the spring, the warmer temperatures bring new life to the world as plants are blooming in abundance, and many birds return north to take advantage of plentiful places to nest. Now, not all birds migrate in the same way. The typical idea that we get from migration is that birds head south for the winter, and they come back in the spring. That is illustrated quite nicely in a map of bird flyways from BirdLife International. Show this to you here. As you can see, there are 8 major flyways that birds follow in their migration patterns. However, as we learned from a lovely article in The Spruce, a bird blog, there are many different types of migration. Seasonal migration is, of course, the most well-known, and for good reason. It is the most commonly observed form of migration across species. In practice, it can vary from birds who move north and south, that's called latitudinal migration, and those who move east and west, longitudinal migration. Our typical seasonal birds aren't always flying down south. Some of them are simply flying down. Many mountain bird species will retreat to a lower elevation when the heavy mountain snowfall makes it difficult for them to fly and makes finding food a real issue. Birds don't enjoy getting snowed in quite as much as we humans do. So when they retreat from a higher elevation, this is called altitudinal migration. Some birds will take one route to their destination and a completely different route to return. This is usually due to a changing food supply just in the time they migrate. So they need food this way, but they'll get food a different way on their way back. This is called loop migration. On occasion, birds will temporarily migrate to safer locations so they can molt. Now, if you don't know what molting is, this is when they lose their old feathers to make room for new growth. Now, their fluffy transition can look rather amusing, but it can also affect their ability to fly, leaving them vulnerable. I bet the last time that you had a bad hair day is probably embarrassing, but hopefully not life-threatening. Now, think of the amazing vacation you remembered in the introduction. How far did you travel? Maybe you went to St. George for a weekend. You could have gone to Disneyland, or maybe even hopped on a plane and went to Hawaii. If you did, you're one of the lucky ones. You probably left from California, and if you did, you flew 2,471 miles. Not bad, but our little feathered friends still have you beat. Let's take a look at some amazing statistics courtesy of the American Bird Conservancy to try and wrap our heads around their incredible journey. The Arctic tern can fly in excess of 49,700 miles each year. Now, that's almost the same as flying around the world completely twice. Now, you put those kind of miles on your car, you'll be lucky if your motor lasts you more than a few years. Now, would you be tired after your plane ride to Hawaii? Usually it takes 4 to 5 hours to cover your 2,741-mile trip. Now, the bar-tailed godwit flies almost 7,000 miles non-stop, and there's no flight attendant to offer them stale pretzels along the way. How fast can you run? How long do you think you could go? Birds can fly anywhere from 15 to 55 miles per hour. That's highway speeds. And they can cover distances in excess of 600 miles in a day, just a little bit more than your average marathon. So, where do we fit into all this? I'm glad you asked. In all the intricacies of nature that are at play here, humans play a surprisingly large role. In many instances, birds can move their population due to a change in habitat. The increasingly urban landscape that humanity is moving to isn't exactly ideal for many species to find food. And as we continue to alter their natural habitat, birds will likely find a new place to live. Did you know most birds migrate at night? The cooler temperatures allow them to travel farther distances without getting fatigued. The tricky part is how they navigate. Without the sun, birds navigate mostly through using the moon and the stars. The International Dark Sky Association teaches that as birds pass over urban or suburban areas, the artificial light from homes can disorient them and cause them to crash. Ouch. Keeping lights out or drawing the curtains makes it easier for birds to travel at night. So, to wrap things up, we've covered many reasons that birds can take such an epic journey. Their survival depends on it. They need to have an environment where they can raise their young, find food, and enjoy a hospitable climate. We as humans play a surprising role in their pilgrimage. So the next time that you see that familiar V shape flying across the sky, you'll know just a little bit more about the incredible journey that our feathered friends are taking.